The shoes on an athlete's feet, the ball they're playing with, even the 24-hour sports channels we can't get enough of, all these things are a huge part of our world. But have you ever stopped to think about how they actually get made? How do they go from just a random idea to a global sensation? Well, today, we're going to unpack that whole journey, from that first spark of an idea all the way to the store shelves.
So what is the secret sauce? Is it just a flash of genius, a massive marketing budget, or is there, a step-by-step plan that companies follow? We're going to dig into the entire life cycle to find out exactly what it takes.
And when we say sports product, that can mean a whole lot of different things. On one hand, you could have something totally wild and out there, like Bosa Ball. It's like a mix of volleyball, soccer, and trampolines. Or, on the other hand, it could be a slicker, better version of something we already know, like a personal watercraft. Both started as just an idea, but their paths to success look very different.
All right, so let's start with the basics, because before we can track a product's journey, we've got to agree on what the word new even means. And trust me, it's not nearly as simple as you might think.
See, the word new is really all about your point of view. For a company, a product is new if they've never made or sold anything like it before. But for you, the person buying it, it's new if it feels new and different, even if it's just a small upgrade to something you've used for years.
So, let's start with the most extreme version of new. These are the new-to-the-world products. We're talking about the real game changers. These aren't just improvements, they are things that literally did not exist before, creating whole new industries out of thin air. A perfect example of this? ESPN. Seriously, think about it. Back in 1979, the idea of a TV channel that was only about sports, running 24/7, was completely unheard of. Bill Rasmussen didn't just launch a new show, he created an entirely new market for sports entertainment that now reaches almost 100 million households. That's innovation.
Now, on the other end of the spectrum and way more common are what we call product improvements. This is when a company takes something that's already out there and just makes it better. Maybe it's faster, lighter, stronger, or sometimes just looks cooler.
All right, take a look at this number, $35 million. Any guesses what that could possibly represent in the sports world? Hint, it's the result of a product improvement done perfectly.
Yep, $35 million in a single day. That's what the Air Jordan 10 powder blue retro sneaker pulled in on day one. Now, this wasn't a totally new shoe, right? But by tapping into that powerful feeling of nostalgia, the Jordan brand proved just how much money is on the table with a really well-executed product improvement.
So how does a company actually take an idea and turn it into a smash hit? Well, it's almost never just pure luck. Behind pretty much every great product is a great plan. This is the blueprint they follow to turn a passing thought into a real thing you can go out and buy.
It's a really methodical 6-step process. You start really broad with idea generation, and then you start narrowing it down through screening, analysis, development, and testing, until finally it's ready for the big leagues, commercialization.
And those first two steps are absolutely critical. Think about it like a giant funnel. At the top, in idea generation, you want to get as many ideas in there as possible. The good, the bad, the totally crazy, it doesn't matter. Then, the idea screening phase is where you get serious, looking at each one and tossing out the ones that just aren't going to work. And what's so interesting is how formal this screening process is. Companies actually use checklists like this to score ideas. They're asking tough questions. Does our idea have a real advantage over the competition? Does it actually fit with our brand and our customers? And a really big one, what's the risk, socially, financially, or even physically, for the person who ends up buying it?
Okay, so let's say an idea makes it through the blueprint process and gets launched into the world. The journey's over, right? Ha, not even close. Now the product has to survive out in the wild, which brings us to its life cycle.
And this chart right here, it illustrates that journey perfectly. It's called the product life cycle, and it basically tracks a product's sales and profits over time. It usually follows this classic S-shaped curve through 4 stages: a slow start during the introduction, then a steep climb in growth, it levels off at maturity, and then eventually starts to decline.
Now, the growth stage, that's the really exciting part. This is where a product just catches fire. The first few people who bought it love it, and now it's starting to go mainstream. Sales are climbing like crazy, competitors are definitely starting to notice, and there's just a ton of buzz.
So here's another number for you. 32 million. This represents how many people are involved in a sports activity that is the perfect example of this explosive growth phase. Any ideas what that could be?
That number? It's the 32 million people playing fantasy sports in just the US and Canada. And as the president of the Fantasy Sports Trade Association said, the internet completely changed the game. It took a niche hobby and turned it into a massive industry. Technology was basically the rocket fuel for its growth stage.
But here's the reality check. No product can grow like that forever. Eventually, it hits the maturity stage, where pretty much everyone who wants one has one and sales start to flatten out. And after that comes the decline. A great example is personal watercraft. They peaked at 200,000 units sold way back in 1995, but after that, sales started to fall off, proving that even the hottest products can cool down.
But does it have to end that way? Is every product just destined to fade away into obscurity? Well, not necessarily. You see, smart companies don't just let their products die. They fight to keep them in the game. Which brings us to our final section.
Companies have a whole playbook of moves they can make to stretch out that life cycle. They can try to find totally new customers, they can add new features to make an old product feel fresh again, they can shake up their marketing with new pricing or promotions, or they can cleverly connect their product to whatever the hot new trend is.
And if you want a fantastic, real-world example of this in action, look no further than AstroTurf. I mean, they were the original, the pioneer of synthetic turf, but the brand almost disappeared as competitors came out with better stuff. Now they're trying to stage a huge comeback with a new and improved product. It's a textbook move to fight off decline and give their product a second life. So that brings us to the end of our product journey. And now I want to turn it over to you. Think about the sports products or even the sports themselves that you really love. Based on everything we just talked about, where do you think they are in their life cycle? And more importantly, if you were in charge, what's the one move you would make to keep them in the game? Something to think about. Thanks for watching.